We're going to be doing things slightly different on this channel. I'm going to be reviewing controllers in a slightly different way to everybody else and to what I've been previously doing. So there's a couple of things you need to know about me before you watch the rest of this video and every other video that I upload. I'm an FPS gamer in a competitive setting, although I do enjoy a wide variety of different genres of games, RPGs, MMOs. I've even got a considerable amount of hours in games such as Forza Horizon 4 and 5. But when I do a controller review, I'm looking at these controllers in a competitive setting. Controllers that are going to give you the least amount of limitations. This is mainly in Call of Duty titles, but also does cover other titles such as Apex Legends, Halo Infinite, and now Splitgate 2. The controllers I do recommend are also going to be great options for other games that I don't necessarily play, such as Rainbow Six Siege and also Fortnite. One thing I have picked up on as well is not a lot of people do like to spend 20 minutes watching one particular video just to find out one piece of information about a particular controller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start breaking it down. For every controller that I do review, we're going to do an unboxing and an initial first thoughts. That's really all that's going to be covered in that particular video. I'm then going to follow up with separate videos for testing things like input latency and the general performance of a controller. If I do run into any reliability concerns or durability concerns, they will also be covered in a separate video. But if a controller is built well enough, that video might not exist. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about MOJHON's Blitz 2 controller. I did a full review of this controller a little while back on my main channel, and I figured since I've been playing with this controller a little bit more recently, it's worth coming back to take another look. I'm going to be going over my favorite features, how the experience has been, and is this controller still worth picking up today? The answer is yes. Thanks for watching. Bye. Nah, I'm just kidding. But the 5 things that I love about this controller are starting with these TMR sticks. Still to this day, you don't see many controllers using TMR sticks. They're either using still potentiometers, or in most cases now actually, they're using Hall effect joysticks. Now, Hall effect joysticks probably seem like a new technology to you because you've only heard about them very recently, but Hall effect is actually an older technology than potentiometer or Alps joysticks. Hall effect joysticks were used back in like the 1980s to 1990s, and then we switched to potentiometers for precision, accuracy, and input latency. And since then, for the past 2 decades, potentiometers have always been the #1 precision joystick. But Hall effect have been brought back because obviously potentiometers come with one downside, and that is they tend to develop stick drift. And because they are full of moving parts that come into contact with each other, should any corners be cut during production, you can end up with a broken controller in a matter of like 2 months. But these TMR joysticks in this Blitz 2 controller are amongst some of the best. I've got about roughly 200 hours on this controller now, and the performance of these things are phenomenal, about as good as pretty much anything out there. TMR joysticks are the latest technology and is actually a new technology, very, very similar to Hall effect, but tend to be higher resolution, more precise, more accurate, and these do exactly just that. There aren't a lot of TMR joysticks on the market, and I'm yet to come across a controller that has TMR joysticks that do perform poorly in any way whatsoever. So if it says they've got TMR, they're probably pretty good, and this one is no exception. This controller is all mechanical mouse click like switches. Unlike some of the controllers that come with kind of like a 50-50 balance, so some membrane, some micro switch, and some others you don't even know what the hell is in there. But these are all mechanical switches in this thing, and they feel great as well. The face buttons are great to use, the D-pad is addictive, you're going to be clicking that thing even when you're not playing anything. Clicky instant triggers, instant bumpers, these things are also so light to press as well. You don't need Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's fingers to activate these things. Not only that, you get 2 extra remappable buttons on the back of the controller as well as 2 extra buttons on the top. Again, if you haven't worked it out already, mechanical switches. What I do have to say is that these 2 buttons on the back of the controller are the absolute best that I've ever used. Out of every controller that I've tested, which is probably around 30, something like that, these feel awesome. They're quite large, so it doesn't matter where you kind of position your fingers on the controller. They're never too far out of reach, and they require just the perfect amount of pressure to activate without being too light that you're going to accidentally press it without meaning to. And again, they've got such a satisfying click. Not only that, they tend to be the most responsive rear buttons that I've ever used on the back of a controller. Some rear extra buttons on controllers tend to have a little bit of a delay compared to using the face buttons. I don't know why this is. It must be down to how the buttons are all kind of wired up, but these ones are no slouch. They're going to respond the very millisecond that you press them. Speaking of milliseconds, this controller's got a polling rate of about 2000 Hz. That might seem overkill for a lot of people, but actually, it kind of makes sense. Most controllers that you'll see now on PC are capable of a polling rate of 1000 Hz, which gives them an input latency on average of just under 1 millisecond. Now this is perfectly fine, and any more is kind of a little bit overkill. But with latency, what you tend to have are variations. So although that most of the time the controller will respond under 1 millisecond, there will be times that it doesn't. This is kind of the same as an FPS value when playing a game. So yes, you can play a game at 300 FPS on PC if you've got a high-end system, but it won't be 300 FPS all the time. You've got something what's called 1% lows, and a controller's kind of got the same thing. Now because this controller responds in 0.5 of a millisecond most of the time, your 1% lows are actually going to be more around the 1 millisecond mark, which means that even when this controller is performing at its worst, it's still going to be slightly faster and slightly more reliable and more stable than other controllers out there. Again, it's a very, very small thing, and this controller being 2000 Hz shouldn't be the one and only reason you go out and buy it, but it's definitely a bonus. Overall, the build quality of this controller is really, really good. In my full review, the only bad thing that I really could say about this controller overall is just the shape and ergonomics of it. It's not quite a PlayStation controller and not quite an Xbox One either. It's a very unique shape and layout. Although if you do spend a few weeks with it, you will get comfortable with it, just like I have. I come from using Xbox style controllers for almost 2 decades, so this thing definitely felt a little bit alien in my hands. But again, you can quite easily adjust if you spend the time with it. And a couple of reasons why you'll want to is that this rubber performance grip around the controller is super grippy and super durable as well. There's absolutely no evidence of this rubber textured grip starting to peel away from the controller or wearing down too quickly or anything like that. It's still very textured, very grippy, and feels really, really nice in the hand. And speaking of grip and comfort, these joystick caps are amongst the best I've ever used. They're not concave like an Xbox controller, but they're also not like a PlayStation controller as well. Again, very much in a league of its own, this thing. MOJHON actually used their very own thumbstick cap style. It's a very grippy compound rubber, but it's also got this nice ring, which is very prominent. With most other controllers, I have to tend to use control freaks just to provide that extra little bit of grip. But with this thing, you just don't need them. Not only that, if you need some extra height, you can just swap out the thumbstick cap itself for a taller one. And MOJHON provide those in the box with the controller when you buy it. Now, I do love these click it instant triggers, but there's something you should know about it if you don't know already. There's not an option to turn them into analog triggers. They are just clicky triggers. This controller is designed for competitive FPS only. You're probably not going to want to play Gran Turismo or Forza Horizon on it. That's because you'll just not have much control over how much input the trigger does put in. It's either all or nothing. But for any FPS game, these things are absolutely perfect. One very last thing that I do love about the controller is that the customization of this thing in the software is just as good as anything gets. You can remap anything to anything. You can use this thing as a mouse input, as a keyboard input. You can just completely configure the controller exactly how you want. You have full control always. And everything saves to the onboard memory of the controller itself. So if you decide to take this thing over to your friend's house and play on their PC, everything will be saved on the controller. If you do want to go ahead and pick one of these up, a link will be in the description below. But I do have a responsibility to let you know that I do earn a 10% commission off of any purchase you make through my link in the description. If you do decide to pick one up, I do appreciate you helping support me and this channel. But MOJHON did send me this controller completely free of charge, but I am not being paid to make any videos. This is not a paid promotion and all opinions are my own, to make sure you get an honest and unbiased review of the product. I am well within my rights to say something bad and negative about this controller if I feel necessary, but I genuinely love this thing. I just want to thank every single one of you for all the support recently. I'm now working directly with a handful of controller brands, some of the biggest and best, that are bringing some phenomenal products to the market, and all of you made this possible. We've got some really exciting products coming up very, very soon, as some of you are already aware. So make sure you hit subscribe down below, turn on notifications so you don't miss when those uploads go live, because I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about them. But that's it from me today. We'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.